Ready?
You know,
Such a pretty smile, I want to see it once in a while. But you were right for me. You were right for me.
You ready?
yeah.
Okay. It is Real Raw Recovery, episode 20. And, well, we don't know what the name of the episode is because we haven't figured that out yet. But here we are. I'm Joe Tilley.
Tyler Tilley.
Tyler Tilley. It's got a nice ring to it.
That's a good name.
Okay, so let's open with a moment of silence and the Serenity We prayer. God,
God.
grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Okay, so the reading is as follows. A measure of humility. We talked about humility last time a little bit. In every case, pain had been the price of admission into a new life. But this admission price had purchased more than we expected. It brought a measure of humility, which we soon discovered to be a healer of pain. That comes from 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 75. It was painful to give up trying to control my life, even though success eluded me. And when life got too rough, I drank to escape. Accepting life on life's terms will be mastered through the humility I experience when I turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. With my life in God's care, fear, uncertainty, and anger are no longer my response to those portions of life that I would rather not have happen to me. The pain of living through these times will be healed by the knowledge that I have received the spiritual strength to survive. And that's it. What do you think of humility as a healer of pain?
How so?
Well, it says here, this admission price had purchased more than we expected and brought a measure of humility, which we soon discovered to be a healer of pain. I guess, when it comes to humility, all it means is understanding my place in the world, I think, really. Understanding that I'm not the end-all and be-all, but appreciating the fact that I have access to power. And being okay with accepting the world on the world's terms, right? Okay with not having to fight everything, not having to try to control everything. And that's good. Yeah, I mean, humility is a good thing. I've come to the realization of I understand that now. I never used to think it was. I didn't understand what humility meant. I had wanted no part of it. I wanted to control my destiny. I wanted to, I kind of believed that if I really tried and really applied myself and really applied my will, I could do all these great things. But for some reason, I never got to do it because my ego and disease got in the way. And, really kept me from being the best I could be.
So, Pop.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write down a couple of things. So I think there's 4 things. Let me start with it'll all come full circle, so it'll make sense. But last week you seemed to, I don't know if I went on a rant as much as I just gave my input, and I felt like I was on the beam with my input. Like I felt I was dialed in, and it was pretty concise input about using God to digest life. It stems
Yeah.
from humility, right?
Right.
But I just noticed by the end of the podcast, it seemed like, for lack of better words, you had enough. Is that true? Like, did you have, like, it seemed like, okay, let's, like, it's just a different wavelength than you like to.
Well, no, I think it's two things were happening there. One is that I was in agreement with what you're saying. I really, I kind of like, I think you were on the beam. I think what you were saying was on the money. That's why I sort of agree with you. And then when it just came to the end, I thought, you know what? I think we've got an hour here, so it's time to wrap it up. So I can see how you might have misconstrued that to mean that I'd sort of had enough.
Well, not even
But
that. I think my fear was that I'm just draining for you in a sense.
No. No, you know, I thought you were on the money, and I thought what you were saying made total sense. So to the point where I kind of like, yeah, you know what, I agree with what you're saying. And so because I agreed with what you're saying, I kind of let you go with it, and just thought, yeah, that's right. I think you're on the money here today.
Okay, moving along.
Because usually I'm on the money,
Right.
at least in my mind.
You're on the $100 bill.
Yeah. It's my face.
Maybe you're on a $3 bill.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I used to be phony like a $3 bill, that's for sure. When I look back at, what my life was like before recovery, for sure, I was just always trying to make things happen. And, oh my God, it was so frustrating.
So, okay, so that brings me to I have 4 points. That's my second, you brought me right into my second point.
Yeah.
I really, truly disagree with that statement that you just made. And you've made it like 2 or 3 times, and you make it frequently throughout a podcast that
Yeah.
you used to essentially always try and make things happen. Right?
Yeah.
And
well, I hope to try to make things happen, but I tried, but I was really limited in my ability to do that. So
it's like you made so much happen. It's unbelievable. Like you made it was the gateway into a wonderful career, a boxing career that got you into a wonderful career. Like all your self-will, like at times, yes, may have failed colossally or catastrophically. It also like paved the way, and you were able to trailblaze and create like a wonderful life. But then yes, you have addiction problems. So it's like, yes, like it can be misconstrued, and then there'd be times where it would backfire, or you would perhaps.
Well, yeah, okay. So, but all that stuff all that stuff had no meaning. Okay, so what would happen is, sure, yeah, I would have some success. Like, okay, I didn't have any success boxing until I completely stopped drinking, and transferred my addictions from drinking to training and working out and having success that way. So that was okay. That was willpower. That was great for sure. Willpower worked. But then what happened was I got to a point in my boxing that I went, okay, now what? There's not enough meaning here. Now what? So then I, searched out the career thing, and I worked hard at that. And, then it was kind of like, okay, now I'm this point, now what? And what would happen is I felt a meaninglessness that I felt was like overwhelming meaninglessness, which always sent me back to drinking. And that lack of meaning in my life. So I was able to achieve certain things because of, I guess I was blessed with enough willpower to do that. But when it came right down to it, it didn't have meaning. But the stuff, and then when I got sober and started, working the steps of recovery into my life, things started to change, and my life started to have meaning, and everything that I was doing seemed to have meaning. And so the connections now, my connections with my family, my spouse, with people that I work with, all those connections grew. I met new friends, and my connections with them grew, and I really felt connected, and I really felt a sense of belonging that I never felt before that. Before that, I was a lone wolf. I was trying to make things happen, and yes, I had some success doing that, but I was so full of, fear and self-centeredness and all the other stuff that goes with that, that I really wasn't a complete person. I wasn't a complete human being. And everything that I accomplished didn't seem to have any true meaning. It was nice. It was fun. Were fun things to accomplish and all that stuff, but it just was meaningless because it didn't have any depth to it. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that, and because it's true. The stuff that was happening in my life had no depth, and it was shallow, and of course I drank, and I tried to get depth out of it through that, but it obviously didn't work. And then I tried to use my willpower to stop drinking, or at least curtail it or control it, and it was useless. It wasn't until I was able to, turn my life over to the care of a power greater than myself that I was able to find any meaning in my life, and to find the ability to have the ability to not drink. But that came from finding the power and meaning. Everything important in my life I found through the power. Because I had a family, but I wasn't connected. What's that?
It gave you a new perspective.
Oh, completely new. Everything changed. It was like I did a complete 180. Everything that used to be important wasn't important.
Everything? See, I just feel like there's a lot of exaggeration in that statement. It's like that's what you're supposed to say, but it's not true.
You know what? Honestly, I was so self-centered and so self-absorbed and so, in my addiction that I really I didn't even know it was important. I just didn't know what was important. I couldn't have told you. I could have told you that family was important, but did I feel it really? Probably not. I could have told you that friendship was important, but did I really feel it deep inside? Probably not. Because it wasn't until I had that spiritual awakening, that 180, that about face that I really even had connections with other people. It was all superficial. It was always about what I could get out of other people, what you could do for me. And I still have that to a degree, right? I still have some of that to a degree. But I also feel that everybody has something to offer outside of just what's in it for me. So, that part of it's different.
So you don't believe in having your cake and eating it too, like having a balanced relationship with God and using your personal power for your benefit.
Oh, no, of course I believe that. I absolutely believe that. I believe that, there is a combination there. But you know what the problem was? The problem was there was no combination before. Like there was no balance at all. Like it was just all about me. And all about what's in it for me. What can I get for me? What can I do for me? And then of course it was all messed up by my drinking and carrying on, and being the type of person that really I didn't want to be, and wasn't, I don't believe was even meant to be. I was just so caught up in my addiction that, and then justifying my behavior to justify my addiction and everything else. It was just, I wasn't a good person. I wasn't a nice guy. I didn't care about anybody else. I could have done the lip service to say I did, but really I didn't. Because, if you look at the facts, they certainly belie this idea that I cared about people. No, the facts were obvious that I didn't, because if I did care about other people, I wouldn't have treated them so shabbily. I wouldn't have been so self-centered. I wouldn't have hurt so many people.
So you weren't a good person, or you were a sick person?
I was a sick person, but because I was a sick person, it had the appearance that I wasn't a good person, and I think I believed that I wasn't a good person deep down. It wasn't until, recovery, working through the steps, seeing myself as a sick person, understanding my sickness a little bit, and trying to make it right. That's when I feel like I truly became a well person, and as a result, a better person. Like I don't fault people for being sick. They're sick, you know. Sick people are sick people, and they just are what they are. But in recovery, you have an opportunity you've never been, which is well, because even before I take the first drink, I'm still a jerk. I'm just because I shouldn't say I'm so much of a jerk, but I'm self-centered, and I care about myself, and I'm all about myself, and I'm all about the fear. I'm so just consumed by fear, and I'm consumed by this lack of self-worth, and this belief that people don't like me and people don't want to be with me and all that stuff. I'm full of that kind of stuff, and then then I drink to try to make me feel like I'm not like that, but I am, and then I sober up and I feel worse, and it's just a continuous cycle of insanity and nonsense and heartbreak and depression and not feeling no connection at all. So that's what I brought to recovery, and then as a result of recovery, I get to change all that. Now I do care about other people. I do have a desire to help other people without anything in return other than the fact that when I help other people, I feel good.
Okay, and the third thing is, I'd like to get his name here for a second. 1 second.
Okay.
Because I was into this guy a little while ago, and very interesting, and I think worth talking about. And his name is Johann Hari.
Oh, okay.
So I listened to
You're talking about the Rat Park.
Yes. So do you remember me talking about that like probably a year ago?
Yeah, for sure. I'd heard it before too, but
right. And
yeah.
But I brought it up because I thought it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went, and he was on probably Joe Rogan 6 months ago, maybe a year ago.
Okay.
And he had kind of a near-death experience. I think in like Vietnam or something. I can't remember. But he died, and so his I think it amplified his passion and his and if you go, I'm not sure if you mentioned in the TED Talk, but like his father or some of his family members were severe alcoholics.
Yeah.
And then he started looking at Rat Park, and then really kind of it blew his mind into creating the slogan, like, it's not, sobriety's not the antithesis of addiction, connection is.
Right.
And I just noticed that you were sharing it on all of your pages.
Mm-hmm.
And before you chime in, I believe that what he is saying about being connected and just his kind of like, it's almost like it's revisiting addiction because like, you know, the claim is like, oh, before there was AA, you would just die a lonely, painful death and no one knew what to do. And then AA came around and changed the whole narrative on that. And sure, there's a lot of truth to that. And then like 85 years later, they're still looking into addiction, and there's a lot of science behind it, and there's a lot of like philosophy about trauma and, you know, what causes it, and on and on and on. And what are you going to end up doing about it? But why I found this fascinating is because he has a stake in the game, but he doesn't. And he I really believe like has a new perspective on it that like I think the main thing I got out of it is that like I cannot close, like there's just like, it's one thing to have a lot of knowledge, right? And know like all the ins and outs of addiction, and yet you still have an addiction problem. So it's not indicating that there's like a light switch cure or a pill cure. But I just think that like there's so much more information out there than comparatively to 80 years ago, that it's really important that that information doesn't just get cast aside as an outside issue. It's not. Like like we've advanced as a human race and society where it's like, yes, the big book works and has wonderful elements and attributes and a great design for living that I still stand behind. But it's just like, it's so important. Like when I heard about Rat Park, it blew my mind. It really did. And in a way where it was just like, and then he goes on, I don't know again if he talked about TED Talk about all the like the Vietnam soldiers that were on heroin in Vietnam and that come home and then they just don't touch it. But the guys that did had nobody.
Yeah.
So that really kind of put a new perspective on again what obsessive compulsive, like that disorder, and how that like connect, like that overlap with addiction. And it really spawned the idea for me where it's like, if you don't have obsessive compulsive disorder, then you're not an alcoholic. It's not just alcohol is like a form of self-medication that you now get addicted to. But the guys in Vietnam were self-medicating with heroin. And some of them got addicted to it and some of them didn't. So unless you
that's no different than, Tyler, that is no different than alcohol in Canada or the US right now. People are introduced to it. People drink it. Like a large portion of society drink it, just like the large portion of the people who were in Vietnam used heroin. A large segment of society drinks alcohol, but only a certain percentage becomes alcoholic. Just like only a certain percentage of addicts, or of heroin addicts, or people that use heroin become heroin addicts in that scenario. Back in this continent at this time, right now, 21st century, long after Vietnam, you don't get people that are just becoming social heroin users. Doesn't happen. I mean, it happens a little bit, sure, but not frequently. People that do heroin know that they're getting into a pretty heavy drug. So it's usually a progression from you try something else first and there's something else next, and then maybe try an Oxycontin or whatever it is, and you end up doing heroin. I think that's what you find is the case. And a percentage and a percentage of those people become addicts, just like a percentage of the people who drink become alcoholic. So I think because they were exposed to heroin like nobody else has ever been exposed to heroin in Vietnam, and it seemed like a way for just anybody to get out of that. You're in a really horrible situation. You do heroin, and all of a sudden you don't feel bad. You feel pretty good. It's a way to cope, a coping mechanism for these ungodly scenario you find yourself into in Asia, and fighting and shooting people, and it's not a happy place to be. So obviously it's an issue. So now the use of heroin, it can have a calming effect, and it's easily accessible, and it's cheap, and all that other stuff. So people use it just as a way of coping, just like people use alcohol in a social situation to kind of become a little bit more comfortable. Normal people. But alcoholics and addicts, they get hooked. And even when they come home from Vietnam, they're still hooked, and nothing changes. That's what I think the point is.
Okay, so I have two things about that. Now, why did you feel so invigorated to share in your social community, in your social network community, that video?
Because I knew it. I knew of it, and I remembered it, and I remembered it was really good, and it was good. It was good to remind people that having that connection with our fellow human being is really important.
But it's kind of like he's coming from a scientific approach where not using the word God, he's using the word connection.
Right. So how does somebody, like, okay, if you're in that rat park, okay, like, I understand the rat park's great. The rat, just for some background, the rat park's great, right? Because you've got everything you need. You got tunnels to climb through. You got wheels to go around. There's lots of other rats there. They have sex. They have a great time, and there's no reason for anybody to want to drink out of the water bottle that's laced with alcohol and drugs. They just drink out of the water bottle because that's all they want. They don't want anything else. Everything they need is there. But the problem with an alcoholic is that when we are full of fear, and we don't have that connection. We're missing that connection, and it's just the way our society is, and just the way that alcoholics, maybe some of us are raised, or I don't know if it's all entirely environmental, or some of it's physical, like genetic, whatever. But we all have this. Those of us who are alcoholics have this, whatever it is, problem, and we don't socialize all that well. We don't know how to be part of that rat pack. So if we were in that rat cage with all the other players, we'd still isolate. And that's what the problem is. I mean, the idea of the rat pack is great, because it means that, what it's true. I believe that the opposite is that lack of connection. I think that is our problem, is a lack of connection. And if we could all experience that connection, we would no longer have that reason to drink or use. But our problem, I believe, as alcoholics and addicts, is that we don't feel that connection. Even when we're in room with other people, we still don't feel that connection. It's like, for me, it's this deep-seated fear, this deep-seated feeling that I don't belong, this deep-seated feeling, if you knew I was really like you, wouldn't want anything to do with me, all those kind of feelings that I have deep inside of me. So I have to find a way to deal with that issue first. So I have to recover, by using the steps and figuring out who I am and what I'm all about, and then getting right with those around me. I finally develop a sense of belonging. I get that sense of humility, and I realize that it's a good thing, because humility is not being like feeling that I'm an urchin or anything like that. Humility is just understanding my position in the universe and being okay with it. Understanding that I have great abilities, because of a connection to the power and connection to other people and everything else. So I learned how to connect with others, like in a way that I've never connected before. And then I'm in this world. Then I introduce myself to this rat park, and and I can be part of that and feel like I'm part of that. I think that's what if you look at the rat park, that's what it's missing. I'm not saying that everything is in the rat park, because it's not. But if we all have that connection, we can all be part of that rat park and not have to drink out of the bottle that's laced with drugs and alcohol, which none of those rats did once they got into that park. There's something different about us.
Why? Because they had rats.
I mean that's the $64 million question is why. But you know what? Honestly, I don't care. I don't care why. Doesn't matter to me why. Why is a waste of time. Doesn't matter why. The bottom line is, I don't have the ability to be in that rat park and be part of that society, the culture. I just don't have that. I need something else first. Then I can be, part of that culture. It's not just being, it's not just having that connection. Because for some reason, I feel like I can't connect. I just don't feel like I'm one of those other rats. And that's what the problem is. But you know what? But then I recover from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And you know what? Then I do feel like I connect. Then I do have my own little connection, my own little world. And I feel part of. And I don't have a reason to reach for that bottle that's laced with drugs and alcohol again. See, that would be the next part of the experiment. Take a bunch of addicted rats, add them to the park, and see what you need to do to those other rats to help them become part of that society.
Right. I'm wondering if they did that already.
Maybe. Yeah, because that wasn't really new. That was I think the guy was from Vancouver, the scientist that did the rat park thing. Yeah.
Alexander something.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting your perspective on that. I think that it's community. So when you join the community, the only thing that I would question is perhaps why I like God is because there's a lot of time when you're alone. I definitely spend a lot of time alone.
Yeah.
And I feel like the relationship with myself is very fulfilling and gratifying and special and sacred because I have a relationship with a higher power.
Yeah.
But I do also believe on the other side of the coin that if you left the element of God out of it, the community will save you. And because you got to remember, in Rat Park, they gave the rats one room with nothing to do and two bottles. One bottle was water and one bottle was laced with cocaine. When they had no friends and nothing to do.
No, yeah, that was the first experiment.
No, right, but they killed themselves, literally.
That's right, because they were lonely. They were alone.
Correct. So that's my point. So it's like that's the whole conclusion.
Right.
And I believe
that the rats would kill themselves.
But I believe that to be true But
even if you're not an addict, you're saying that even if you're not an addict, if you were by yourself, given your druthers to drink basically alcohol and drug-laced water, knowing that probably if I keep doing this, I'm going to die. You'll turn to the water, even if you're not a rat.
That's a good question. I didn't think of that.
Okay.
Because I'm wondering if there's some rats that even if they're alone, they'll still drink the water, or if there were some rats that they didn't matter, they all drank the cocaine water. Well, then that kind of kills my concept. So that'd be interesting to know. Were there some rats that didn't want to die?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that'd be interesting. But no, I just think that a lot came from like I wouldn't quite call it a revelation. It presented so many questions in my own logic and my own philosophies and my own like structure. It poked holes in a lot of things. And I just remembered like giving it some real like, and I like the way that guy conveyed his message and his energy. And I believe that he's not really, it's not really based on ego, and like he's got the key, like he's just sharing his discoveries. And even like I said, when he was, I listened to like a
Uh-huh.
3-hour interview, you hear like where he's really coming from. It just sounds like they do a lot. He believes a lot in like what they do in Vancouver, where they have shelters where you can use clean drugs with clean needles.
Yeah.
And then he believes like weaning you off by getting you a job, getting you into a community, and doing follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've seen massive success rates on that.
Right.
So that would then conclude like, it doesn't mean that there was God. It doesn't mean that there wasn't God. It just means like interesting that there's no mention of the 12 steps, and they're getting people off of heroin in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So like that, there's some major like it not poke holes, because it indicates that like I'm not. It just we're there's a lot to look at there. Like there's a lot to look at the research that he's doing. There's a lot to look at the progress that they're making. And when we come from a cult that would indicate that that's perhaps outside issues, or that doesn't fall into suit with what we believe, and that you need to believe in God, and that you need to do these steps in order to recover, well then now that, so you, and that's the whole reason why I was so interested, why you shared that, because if you go down the rabbit hole with that guy, there's no 12 steps at all. I'm sure he would totally be into it. He wouldn't say, oh, that's hogwash, but that's not what he's practicing at all. They do like
and I think I think there are some people who are addicts and alcoholics who can just make a connection, who can be brought into a community, feel that community spirit, to feel like they're part of, and to actually get better as a result of that. But I think there are a certain segment of us too that need to have more than that. We need to have that spiritual connection. We need to have that. We need to find a spiritual solution to our spiritual malady. And I believe that I believe in a combination of both is what I think comes down to. And I think that's what if you look at the history of AA, where it started from, the first 100 members, very hardcore low bottom drunks for the most part, and really having no choice but to try this new thing, and then little by little they begin to get sober, and they start to spread this word around, and other alcoholics join in, and they're all willing to do this deal wholeheartedly, because their options are either die or do this.
right.
And in today's society, I think what happens is a lot of people come to AA when they're not nearly so far down the road, like they're higher bottom drunks, and there's a lot more higher bottom drunks, and there's a lot more people who aren't willing to do what it takes in order to recovery. So I think that's one of the problems, and then of course we have programs that are based on, harm reduction as opposed to recovery. And it's like, and harm reduction is probably a good thing in some ways, it keeps people alive a little bit longer, and maybe long enough for we can find some recovery, or maybe somebody who maybe harm reduction is enough for some people. I don't know, but people who are real hardcore alcoholics, they need more. And I believe that I fall into that category, that just being assimilated into community would have not have been enough for me. I needed to change at the core level. I needed to have a spiritual awakening, I believe, in order for me to recover from that hopeless state of mind and body. And that's, but then you find the community, right? Then you find the community. You go to the meetings. You're around other sober alcoholics, and that community is a big part of it.
Well, you got to remember,
And that's our rat part, right?
Right, but you found the community before you started anything.
Well, yeah, because you start the community because I think, in a sense, maybe it's because I realized that there is hope. I found some hope, so I come to this community because there's hope for me here, and I feel like I belong in the community. But that's not enough for me. Maybe that's enough for some people, because I believe that there are people who come to the community, to recovery communities, and don't do any work, but they're okay. Then there are other people who come to the community, don't do any work, and they're not okay, but they still hang around, they still stay somehow. Then there are other people who come to the community and do the work, and they recover, and they feel great, and they're just better people as a result of that. That's my opinion, based on what I have seen, in 27 years. And I think that, maybe the whole deal is not for everybody, but I'll tell you this much. I believe if you do the whole deal, you're going to be a better person. You're going to be in better shape. You're going to be a better member of your community if you do that whole deal. It's going to make you a better person. So why not do the whole deal? And do it as quickly as possible. Why not become a complete whole human being who's comfortable in their own skin as soon as humanly possible? Why not do that?
I don't think you're complete. I don't think you're a complete human being by that process. I think you're great.
Well, okay, but a more complete human being, okay?
Okay, fine.
Like a better human being, okay? The best. Why not try to be the best you can be, right? Because I'll tell you, I without any doubt in my mind whatsoever, if you do the work of the 12 steps, you will become a better person. And I don't think that there's any room for not necessarily, or I don't think so, or no. That's plain and simple, man. When you do that, when you do this searching and fearless moral inventory, you find a power that's greater in yourself. You make it right. You get right with yourself and others, and make the amends that you need to make in order to do that. When you do all that work and then carry the message to others, and and work with others, and when you do all that stuff, you're going to be a better person. You're going to be the best person you can be. And I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. Now, you can do shortcuts. You can try shortcuts. You can try doing it without all that stuff. And if you want to do that, good luck to you. But in my opinion, you're just not going to be the best you can be. You're not going to have the best chance you can have at recovery. So, I love the rat park idea, and that's why I shared it. I love the fact that, being part of this community is what makes us feel like we're whole. But for somebody like me, there's a process that I have to go through in order to get to that point where I feel like I'm part of the community, where I actually believe that I belong. And some people don't have to do that, but I do.
Cool.
Right? Did you say there's 4 things? What was the 4th thing?
I'm debating where to turn the conversation.
Okay, well, is it a time-consuming thing?
Um,
Do you want to save it for next episode?
I think I'll jot it down, but I have 3 things. I'm going to spurt them out, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
I got the thing I was going to talk about is a resentment I have, and I thought we could work through it together on quote, air.
Yeah.
The next one is, do you believe that there is a difference between addiction and alcoholism? That's the next one.
Okay.
And then thirdly, it's a kind of a subhead of that is a personal view that I have. I almost find it hard. I guess it's an opinion, but it's also based on my experience. So it's like kind of my own personal take on addiction / alcoholism, which is another topic where, but it kind of stems from, do you think there's a difference between alcoholism and an alcoholic and an addict? And then the first topic is, I have a resentment.
Okay, so I think I think that's a good way to tease the next episode for us, is to give us some food for thought for next time. But I think I just have an idea. Let me know what you think of this. Why don't you tell us about your resentment, what you plan on doing with it, and then in the next episode we can talk about where you're at with it at that point. Okay.
Right.
How does that sound?
Yeah, because I think it's kind of
Timely?
No, what's the opposite of timely?
Oh, timeless.
No, okay, so no, yeah. I thought there's another word for timely then.
Time sensitive?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
not like,
time
because I'm kind of I've already kind of worked through it, but it I know that it's not 100% closed, so I thought it would be fun to get a little humble, if you will, and throw some of my own personal
Okay. Yeah, good.
personal, like, and how I work through it, and then also getting your counsel on it, and just like kind of making sure I'm not missing any steps with it.
Okay, shoot.
So I look at a resentment like a battle, like a war in some cases, but in general like a battle. And so then it's like, is this a battle that, like, okay, so somebody has affected my business at one of the night markets,
Okay.
and it's not the owner, but it's one of the minions that work for the night market. So I sell things at a night market, right?
Yeah.
And then we sell things. it's quite layered. Are you sure you want me to?
Yeah, you go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so we sell things at a night market. I have staff that works there, and we sell copywritten, like what happens is we print stickers and put them on things like lighters, and we sell silicone boxes that you put your cigarette packs in, and then on those silicone boxes would be like Donald Duck or like Mickey Mouse.
Yep.
But it's not obviously a Disney product, right?
Of course, yeah.
But
you also have your own sort of versions of those things too.
I do that too. I definitely also make my own.
Your own art is on a lot of
right,
things,
but and I also put it onto the product. And for a while, like, a staff would periodically come and threaten my staff to shut the booth down.
Yep.
And because we're selling like we'll sell Louis Vuitton lighters and Gucci lighters and like brands that are popular right now amongst the children.
Yeah.
And then they get lenient or don't show up for a month, so then I restock the shelves with counterfeit goods and the land of Thailand. And here's the thing, is that everyone at this market, if they're into that industry, whether it's bags or shirts or anything, they sell the same shit.
Yeah.
But they're picking on me for some reason. I don't know if they know that a foreigner owns the booth. I don't know why they have some sort of, like, they wouldn't even let us pay them off. It's not the police. It's literally the market that we pay to be there.
Right.
And it's layered, and I'd really like to give you the full scoop. But anyways, then I told the person that I rent the booth from to go talk to the office.
Yeah.
And then she said she did, and there's not a problem because our rent got raised.
Yeah.
So a lot of other shops closed, and then what it told me is that, okay, so if they had a quota that could sell that shit is what they kind of told us.
Yeah.
Well, now that quota should mean nothing because we're first in line, and they just raised the rent quite significantly.
Right.
So I felt like if now we can sell it now, like, right? And she went to talk to the office, my understanding, and they said, yeah, don't worry about it. Well, now the last 4 days or whatever, they pounded my shop like never before. And like, it's really confusing because like there's such a disconnect. A, I'm not there talking. B, I can't speak at that level at all. And C, it really affects my business when, unfortunately, when you just get creative and sell your own shit, it doesn't sell. You need to, like, especially the industry that I'm like working with.
Right.
You have to be able to sell Donald Duck silicone cigarette cases.
Mm-hmm.
If you sell like patterns and stuff, which we do, it as well, it affects the business so much where it's not plausible. So unfortunately, it would not be worth my time, and it possibly could lose money if we can't sell branded, copywritten things.
Okay. Yeah.
They hounded my girlfriend was working at the shop one night and not the normal staff.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew up. My girlfriend got pissed, and it was just like all of a sudden it went from like an issue where they periodically tell us to take it down to you can no longer sell or you shut your booth down.
Right.
I made a decision to close the shop.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't. There's a lot of reasons why that happened. But then my resentment came from, it's been 8 months. I never got a real shot. I feel like they fucked me and they scared my staff. They made things awkward. They made things like really sketchy for me. And it was been 8 months where they fucked my business. And people die at this market from electrocution. Like, this market is the worst. So here's I'm filling you in my resentment. They charge more. It's shit. It's all Chinese people that buy Chinese shit that's overpriced because they hike the fucking rates on all the booths so that it's not a normal Bangkok market because it's so expensive. So you got to sell t-shirts that are worth $4. You got to sell them for $10. And this shit was made in China in the first place. And it's Chinese that buy all the fucking, that come to this specific market because of the location. Like, I'm not being racist. Like, it's literally 75% Chinese come to this market, and they're buying Chinese goods. Someone died 3 months ago at this market because they had a malfunction because it rained, and the electrical wires got in the rainwater and burnt some kid to death. And they never publicized it at all. They hushed everything up because if the Chinese found out there was a ghost fucking floating around the market, it would destroy them.
Right.
So here's all the shit that's going on in my head. It's like, you're fucking with my business. You fucked me for 8 months. That's my resentment. Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like I feel angry at myself, but I also feel like I tried my best and I just didn't get a fair shake. Then I feel a huge sense of relief since I made this decision to close down, because I do know like the potential, like even if I tacked on another, $30 per night, I'm still kind of am okay closing it. So, but I just felt like things might have been different. So I thought I want to either go to the office with a translator and freak out on these fucking people while it's recorded and uploaded on social media of all like this market, they charge so much and it's filthy. There's no garbage, there's no staff. There's like, they fucking grind the shit, they squeeze the shit out of all the vendors.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And
So that's what you want to get back at them. You want to kind of get even
right.
and all that stuff,
And then
right?
it's like, I don't want to hurt the market for the other vendors. I don't
Right.
want, how much energy do you want to expel? If I wanted to stay at this market, then perhaps I need to pick this battle. It's a
Right.
because I do feel slighted. I do feel like it, so the reason why it's worth bringing it up to you is because this is, I believe, like if I heard this from somebody else, I'd say, yeah, like there's times where you've got to stand up and not just go, okay, this person's a fucking bitch and I pray for them and I hope they have a great day and blah, 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 where I can let it go. But there's also a time in your life where it's like, that is unacceptable. I do not accept what is being thrown at me and I choose to do something about it.
Okay, so here's what I would suggest. Okay, so for example, my sponsee came to me with the exact same scenario, right? The first thing I would say to it is put it down on paper. Write down the resentment. Write down how it makes you feel. Write down what your role in it is, and then write down what you should be like. Make five separate columns. One, who is the resentment against? Two, what's the resentment? Three, how does it make you feel? Like, how does it affect you? Does it affect your social instincts? Does it affect your, financial, all that other stuff? See how it affects you. Fourth column is what is your role in it? What did you do to, were you selfish were you self-centered? Were you fearful? And see what your role in it was. And then the fifth role would be what you should have done instead. So if you go through that whole process and then see what you come up with, I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. And at the end of the day, you might just say, you know what, thank God I've closed this up.
Well, I already feel that, so I can jump
Right
ahead. In my role,
okay, so
role in it is I'm selling counterfeit shit. So like I'm already stealing from somebody else to gain profit.
Right.
So like it's clearly for me to see the rule. However, just it's like when the chips are down.
Yeah.
Do I stand up for myself or
well,
not?
what was the purpose of standing up for themselves? I mean, if just the old saying, if you're gonna seek revenge, you better dig two graves. It's like, why do you need these other people to suffer? Do you need them to suffer? Do you need them to pay restitution? What do you need out of them? And it's the thing is like, you might find that the best thing for you to do is just let it go, and leave them with love, right? Just say, okay, I'm off. This was just an indication from the universe that I'm not supposed to be here doing this, and that's what's going on for me. So now that I understand that and realize that, I can move on. But what I'm saying is that I think that this would be a good thing to now process, and then when we reconvene next week, let's find out what happened, how it went.
We can do that, but like now that it's all out on the table.
Yeah.
It's funny, like so just the main points are, I really heavily prayed the day before this kind of all went down and I made a decision.
Yeah.
Like a really good prayer. And
well thought out. Yeah.
I felt like this was, I to get a little bit, it's a little, I won't go into depth, but I felt like this was an answer. When they hounded my girlfriend and made it like now they're out for blood.
Yeah.
Because they came to my shop the next day. They never do that before. Now they're pinpointing me every day and taking shit. Anyways, I felt like when that happened, and then that night I made a decision. I thought it through. I let it settle, and then I pulled the trigger to go. I'm out. I'm done. I made all the calls I needed to pull out. I have like the rest of the month to clean up.
Yeah.
And I felt such a sense of satisfaction and relief and excitement for the future, like the change. It took up way too much of my time for the potential that never came.
Right.
And so it's like great, but the resentment then has now significant, like I'm not going to do what I originally was blasting out there, right?
Yeah.
But I just felt the main thing that I would want everyone, if we're gonna like to actually hear, is that the only thing that now the resentment has kind of turned, like where Tyler's like, now you take two roads. You take the one road where you let it go. You even perhaps find a place where you can totally accept it, and whether it's love or complete acceptance, where you don't skip a breath when you walk by the market or whatever, right? Which I'm
Yeah.
pretty close to. But I would also like to know the road of where it's like, you cannot do that to me. I won't let someone do that.
I think, okay, so like what the 11th step tells us to do is pause when agitated or in doubt, and ask for help. Pause and ask when in doubt or agitated. So what I'm thinking is, now what you do is you take a week, you pause when in doubt and agitate, and let's see what happens when you come back from weekend. I really just, I want to see what that experiment looks like. And I also encourage you to write it down and do those columns, like physically do it. I know you can sort of do it in your head, but I want to see what happens when you physically do it. And then let's reconvene in a week and see what happens.
All right.
Okay. So ready prayer?
Yep.
God,
God.
grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds, right? It's kind of cool.
All right.
You know, such a pretty smile.